Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so further shock from the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade. Uh, this is one of those nights where everybody's dropping content at the same time. So for me, I just found myself adding a bunch of Laker Luka content to the watch list. And I'd start watching somebody's content, and then I see somebody else made some, so I click over there. I'm never actually listening to anyone's full conversation because I'm skipping around trying to get everybody's reaction, and it's just, I'm not getting anywhere. There's too many videos dropping at once. Everybody I want to hear from, it's going to take literally a day to watch all of these videos, man. So I know y'all probably ain't going to get to mine right away unless you loyal fans to me, for which I appreciate either way, but I'm just going to vent, and I don't have any negative thoughts in the moment. It's been about an hour since the trade was announced, and I don't know that I've processed this at all. I listened to myself. I listened to the video that I just made in my initial reaction and kind of laugh out of it. But this is one of these trades that even an hour later you still don't feel that much different. If I'm being honest with you, I'm still in utter disbelief. I have not processed how I feel about Anthony Davis leaving. I have not processed what I think about Luka Doncic coming in. That's what I was hoping maybe I'd do here with y'all. But I think, as I said in the video that I made, this is something I definitely do if I'm the Lakers. It's something I definitely do not do if I'm the Mavericks. That doesn't mean that I don't value Anthony Davis or that I don't think they can win with Anthony Davis. I actually think the Mavericks can really make noise with what they've put together. Kyrie Irving's a hell of a player, man. And you add Anthony Davis, you give him some serious rim protection next to Derek Lively, serious rim protection. They look a little like the Cleveland Cavaliers. You add Max Christie, now they got another fantastic point of attack defender that ultimately replaces Derrick Jones Jr. I think we're going to miss Max Christie and what it is we're trying to build here, especially bringing in Luka the Don. You really needed a Max Christie. So there are going to be some things about this Laker unit that is not going to be very pleasant for us. Because we're losing some athleticism with Max Christie and ability to kind of play, do certain things. And Luka the Don, the one thing that is being said about him, and it's one thing I've said, is he don't really take care of his body, man. If I have one concern about Luka going forward, and it's the same thing that was cited in the conversations about the Dallas Mavericks moving off from Luka, was they're concerned about extending him because he doesn't really take care of himself. He drinks beers, he doesn't take his body as seriously as he needs to, and that's something that you worry about. If you think about long term and paying a guy $300-400 million for which he's going to demand, you want to know that he's a hell of an athlete. And Luka Doncic is touched by God to play basketball, clearly, but I do not think that he takes care of his body, and it's cost him injuries. And I think the Dallas Mavericks are sick of it, and they saw an out. I don't care. It's like, if I'm being honest with you, with all of that considered, as a Laker fan and as somebody who's thinking about the future of this franchise, I'll take my chances. If it crashes and burns, it was worth it because Luka was that great. He is that great, and he's 25 years old when I do it. And Anthony Davis has 31. He's 31 years of age. And even though he's a hell of a piece, he really does take on a lot of usage in our situation, and we have warned him a lot. We've warned him. And when you look to trade him, for which our rebuild is imminent, we know that Bron's on his way out. Our rebuild is imminent. When you look to trade him, generally what you're thinking is, let me trade him for a bunch of picks and whatever salary matches I can get. And in those picks, I'm going to draft my future, put something together, and compete. But when you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you got to consider keeping fans in seats. You don't want to fall off. You don't want that long process of having to sit through bad talent like the Wizards are going through in their rebuild. try to build through the draft. It's an effective way to do it, like OKC and those teams, but it can go wrong. It's a lot of different things that could go completely left when you try to build that way, and it's a risk that the Los Angeles Lakers probably don't believe is necessary if an opportunity like this comes knocking on their door. And I agree. I totally agree. I love building through the draft. I believe in building through the draft. But when the top 3 player becomes available and you have what the circumstances we have, you don't let that situation pass you by. You don't overthink that. You don't overthink that. And if the way this has been described, the Mavericks called Rob Pelinka and asked him what he would be willing to do for Luka the Don. And there's a lot of red flags that come with that type of thing. You've had a guy, you drafted him. He's the best player he could possibly, arguably the best player on the planet. And you're ready to give him away under these circumstances? What is it that you are protecting against that would make you do this? Is what the Lakers have to ask themselves. But we're also the team that passed up on Cam Whitmore because everybody was afraid of his circumstances, and it was a situation we regret. And I know how our front office tends to overcorrect. So when you know that trait is in place and you see this opportunity come by and you understand these red flags could potentially be there for Luka the Don, but you also realize that today he's worth probably double what it is that you ultimately sending out, that's just something you're going to be willing to do. And when you consider the wisdom behind heeding red flags, you weigh that against the great talent of Luka Don, and you still take Luka Don. That's the truth. Some stuff is just worth the risk, man. Even when you know better, even when you see the problems that could potentially be there, even when you wonder if there's something to do you don't know. If it gives you an opportunity, this guy who has this type of talent, that guys have gone to the Hall of Fame with several championships, ain't good as him. When you know, you know what I'm saying? Franchise players that have statues outside their building ain't talented as the dude. So it's like, I value wisdom, and the risk is real when a team is ready to move on from a guy at 25 years old. Does he have degenerative needs or something we don't know about? Is he talking about retiring soon? Is there some stuff we don't know about this man that ultimately gonna come out and now he gonna have some trouble? You know what I'm saying? Like some you know what I mean? I don't want to put nothing on him in this wildly, vague speculation, speculatory thought, but like that would be the reason why you would move on from Luka Doncic if you have any sense in your head. Something has to be seriously wrong there. And you cashing out early. But here's what I weigh that against. And I want to be absolutely respectful of Anthony Davis when I say that. I weigh that against the ridiculousness of the accepted return when the perceived value of the player is as high as it is, and you're willing to take back that amount. That tells me that there's something wrong with your thinking in and of itself. Because just because you know there's something wrong with what you have doesn't mean you gotta lowball it in regards to the return you get for it when no one else knows what you know. You see what I'm saying? That's how I assess this as well. So I'm looking at the GM of the Mavericks. I'm like, all right, you believe there's something that ultimately means that you should be moving on from Luka Doncic right away. And he's not even a free agent. Fine. I understand he's got a long-term injury that he's dealing with, and he may not even be back for another month for my team. We effectively punt this season down the road. Okay, maybe I have some notion that might be a problem for my Dallas Mavericks team that wants to win now. If he's gonna miss the rest of the season, we need to have some pieces in here that can help us win right away. Maybe that's like, with all of that being understood, And mind you, you may have the philosophy that Anthony Davis can help you win a championship because you believe defense, just like he said, wins championships. And you love the length. I love the length. I think it's great. I love the vision. But the return that you got back for Luka Doncic is so under his perceived value that one has to question why you didn't shop him for more, is essentially what it comes down to. Why you didn't shop him for more. You understand that there are teams in this league that have a lot of things that they would have been willing to part with that is worth more than Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a Laker first round pick. And you didn't want any of that because you had to have Anthony Davis to that degree. And if that's the case, do you understand the risk, that perceived risk that comes with taking on Anthony Davis? Why we would be willing to send him to you? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's just like, I could see if he was taking back some wild, great package, like that was just ironclad, like 8 picks for Luka Doncic, and it's like, okay, that's real value, Anthony Davis's value is fluctuating. He's gonna have nights where he scores 15 points, bro. Like, we've complained about this a lot with the Lakers. There are nights when Anthony Davis don't even show up for his standards. He's been really, really healthy as of the last couple of years. He fought so hard to get that street clothes label off of him. And we're proud of Anthony Davis and the efforts that he put in to stay healthy for our team. He put in a lot to be a Laker, and I want to retire number 3. But, like, he had to shake that off of him because he had it on him. Like, you understand that, right, Dallas? So when you send us Luka to Don, and I see all those red flags, do you see the red flags that we have for why we'd be willing to potentially compromise Luka for Anthony Davis? Or are you so enamored with the idea of Anthony Davis and the fit that he has for your current roster that you're not considering that you may be getting back something that ain't much better in that way than what you're sending us? Because, like, okay, you sending me chubby Luka, who drinks beers, 25 years old, who just can't. He was in the finals literally last year as the best player on the Dallas Mavericks. He is the best player on the Dallas Mavericks. You're sending me him, and I'm sending you Anthony Davis, Max Christie, of whom didn't get no playing time last year, who's literally still developing, playing great, getting better, growing by the second. I love him. You're gonna love him. And a first round pick that loses value immediately when a trade like this takes place. And you think that you just ran out of there like a bandit because you got rid of chubby Luka at half the price, basically? I don't trust that front office is assessing things properly when they make this decision. All of the tea leaves that they're showing me is telling me that they accepted Luka Doncic's return being significantly less without trying to get more, because they were enamored with an idea of a specific piece that they knew we had that they wanted. And that piece ain't worth honestly, he's not worth what Luka is. I'm not going to say he isn't worth half, because when Anthony Davis is playing his best, he is worth half. But mind you, that's what it is. Like, he's worth half of Luka Doncic in today's market. Half. And even on top of that, you traded him in your conference. You traded him to a Western Conference team. Like, granted, we traded Anthony Davis to a Western Conference team too, but Anthony Davis is 31 years old. He's going to age in your uniform. Just like we were happy to have him age in ours, but, like, we were probably going to move on from him before it even came to that, which is another reason why I think we did this. If LeBron James moves on, we didn't think he was probably going to be here. We were going to probably trade him for picks. We were going to try to trade him for something, a good package of stuff. The best name I heard in regards to potential trades for Anthony Davis was somebody like Jalen Williams, J-Dub, whom we love. Great player in OKC. If we could trade Anthony Davis to OKC for J-Dub and Lou Dort and a couple first-round picks, like, we would have probably rolled with that and been extremely happy. Maybe we could get, like, you know, reach for the stars. Maybe they give you Chet Holmgren or something like that instead of Lou Dort, J-Dub, and Chet Holmgren, which I don't think was realistic at all. You do understand that right now I could take Luka Doncic, send him to Dallas potentially for his value, and get both of those players back and even more than that. Because of what his perceived value actually is in his league. Perceived value. Not like what you know, but what it is that nobody else knows and what they're willing to pay for him. As an understood 25-year-old guy who just went to the finals with supreme talent beyond some of our wildest dreams. Literally unguardable. So I think the GM of the Dallas Mavericks has made some pretty strong decisions that I did like. And for the basketball fit, he may very well have just put something together that's really, really winnable this season. But this is what I say about GM, and it's not about this season. It's the same thing I said about Rob Pelinka. If you do everything you're doing for this year, then you're punting future seasons down the road and you're not fully doing your job. That's why I'm looking at this situation. I'm like, okay, when people start telling me, well, we're going to mix Max Christie's defense, we're going to miss Anthony Davis shot blocking, this unit, what are we going to do with a center? I don't give a damn about none of that is at all what we're actually doing here. What we're doing here is bringing yourself the successor to LeBron James, and you will have intentions of building all of that stuff after making this move over the course of several years. That's what you're doing. You don't care about this unit. Essentially, when you bring Luka Doncic to this unit, the inner workings and the structure of what this team was supposed to be, you don't care about that no more. That doesn't even matter anymore. Now you got to build something with an entirely different philosophy and a different vision around Luka Doncic. You're not bringing Luka to this team to help this team win. You're bringing Luka Doncic to your organization, and you're saying that we're going to dream up something new. And so that's really what it is. I think the Lakers got a bigger picture understanding about what they're trying to do here. And I think the Dallas Mavericks are literally just trying to build, like trying to capture something that they think could get them back to the finals this year. And this is their vision for it. Now, whether you agree or disagree is not what I'm actually trying to argue when I say this, but I just think that's what they're trying to do. They're like, this piece, we believe, will get us back to the finals this year with this unit. And we're going after a championship. And like, that's awesome. I think Anthony Davis can help you compete for multiple championships. So that's not a horrible thing. It's not like they brought back some trash, not by any stretch of the imagination. But like, what they gave up is so much more valuable and so much more, so much younger, you know? For the vastness of the responsibilities of Anthony Davis on both sides of the floor, I won't disrespect him and say he's so much less talented than Luka Doncic, because I don't perceive that their greatness is properly visualized in my head. Anthony Davis affects a million different things on both sides of the floor. And so is he that much more talented than, is Luka Doncic that much more talented than Anthony Davis? I don't know. I don't know. You see, that's how I perceive it, because I respect all that Luka does on the offensive end versus nothing on the defensive end, and all that Anthony Davis does on both sides of the floor, including one of the best rebounders in the world. So it's like, yeah, there's some real strengths coming back to the Dallas Mavericks that are definitely worth having 100% of the time. Anthony Davis is a first ballot Hall of Famer and is still playing like he's in his prime. You are not going to have trouble with Anthony Davis as it pertains to what you see on the basketball floor when he's out there. He's fantastic, man. So you're going to miss Luka Doncic in some areas, but others you will not. And so if they, with a new identity
It's just it's almost like the Sabonis Halliburton trade when the Kings took back Sabonis. Like both teams could potentially be very happy because Anthony Davis is that great, and Luka Doncic is obviously he's that dude. So it's like for the basketball fit for Dallas, if their intention is to just build for basketball fit, I don't doubt that they're still a contender. I don't doubt that if Anthony Davis is healthy, he's already proven he could be an NBA champion. But he's not a number one. He's not a number one. And I don't think that Kyrie's a number one either. So this is when they're going to start finding out some things that they probably don't realize. That's when it's going to start getting tricky for Dallas. That's when the reality that this was a mistake is going to hit. Anthony Davis, for all that he does number one guy production, but he don't have a number one guy in the heart. That's not who he is. He's a number two guy. He always deferred to LeBron James. And Kyrie Irving always deferred to LeBron James too. Love Kyrie. His talent, unbelievable. But he's like a number two or number three at this stage in his career. So what you have is giving us one of the number ones in all of the league, and you took back our number two, who plays like a number one, but don't have number one spirit. It's not who he is. And Dallas is gonna find out they got two guys like that leading the ship, and it's not gonna be what they think it's gonna be. In my opinion, when it comes to that specific thing, we can win a championship. It's not just about X's and O's, brother. It's not just about X's and O's. Your GM, you're gonna find out. So that's when it becomes a situation for me where it's like, I think their GM thinks Anthony Davis is something that he may not be. That's what I think they may have just did. They got an idea about what they think Anthony is. When they get him, they're gonna be like, oh man, this isn't what we thought. Maybe we should have listened to everybody. Maybe we should have got a feel for this before we pulled the trigger. I think that's the problem that the Dallas Mavericks made here. When you're looking at a player from afar, and you look at what you think his fit looks like in your team, and you have these ideas, maybe you have a playbook in mind, maybe you have ideas about what you want your team to look like, and you're like, okay, that player fits my thing, I'm bringing him to me. But because you don't let this be rumored, you don't get a feel for how the world sees this move. You don't fully appreciate what you have in Luka Doncic. Maybe you had an argument with this dude. Maybe you didn't. Maybe y'all have butted heads when you asked him to do certain things. Right? I'm just speculating. But I can imagine they took him for granted as it pertains to his attitude, his immaturity, and taking care of his body, the injury issues. They just had him here for so long. They don't value him like the rest of the league does. And then they look at that piece in Anthony Davis and they see exactly what their vision is for their team. And they're like, we're going to go get that guy. This is where you mess up. This is why sometimes it's best to get a feel for what the world sees before pulling the trigger on a big purchase. Like, if you're going to buy a car, maybe you should do a little homework on the car before just going out and getting the car. Because once you get it, you're going to find all the things that people don't like about it once they have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's a Ferrari, but when you get it there, you find out this is wrong with it, that ain't so good. And the people who've had the car, who've written reviews on it, have written this stuff there for people like you who are enamored with the idea of the car, but don't understand the reality of it. That's, I think, what's happened to the Dallas Mavericks there. And because they didn't read no reviews, or because they didn't get feelers out there for whether or not this would be done by the rest of the league, they pulled the trigger on something they believed in, took for granted what it is they had, which was so much more valuable than they understand, and made a decision that ultimately they did. And so that's what I think has happened here. That's exactly what I think happened here by the Dallas Mavericks. Salute the Kobe minute. That's exactly what I think they did. Yeah, man. So at the end of the day, as a Laker fan, I do this move. I'm not gonna sit up here and say I'm thrilled, because I didn't want to move on from Max Christie or Anthony Davis. In a nutshell, hell no. You traded who? If you tell me tonight the Lakers traded a first round pick Anthony Davis, Max Christie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, 2 second-round picks or a second-round pick, and don't necessarily tell me what I got back, I'm heated. Because I'm like, how in the hell are you going to move Anthony Davis and Max Christie? You know what that does to my defense? Like, that's the first thing that's going to come to mind. What the heck did you bring back? And I'm thinking probably a bunch of stuff that you rumored, maybe something a little better. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, you gave me some picks. Okay, we're starting our rebuild. But, like, why am I moving Max Christie to start my rebuild? He's part of my future. I'm not moving Max Christie. What the hell are we doing? Why is a pick going out if you're giving me a rebuild process? And then you tell me it's Luka the Don? Then it's like, oh, it's okay then. You see what I'm saying? What's going out? I am definitely not okay with what's going out. What's coming back makes it fine. Makes it absolutely all right. And that's the truth, man. That's exactly how I'm looking at it. If you're going to send out a bunch of stuff I don't want moved, you had better bring me back Luka the Don, Wemby, Anthony Edwards. You see what I'm saying? Like SGA, Jokic. You got to bring me back something like that. And guess what they brought me back? Something like that. You brought me Luka Doncic. Oh, in that case, it's fine. Like, I've made jokes about this type of stuff, man. Like, I've literally been on this camera more than once joking about if somebody gonna give me Luka the Don, we could give him Anthony Davis. Like, other than that, I'm holding on to Anthony Davis now. If somebody come knocking on my door with Luka Doncic, obviously I'm gonna go with that. Like, that's the stuff that you say when you're not serious, when you don't actually think something could be possible, man. Like, that's about as possible as I expect somebody to knock on my door and have a bag of money waiting there for me. Yeah, I'm gonna take it for sure. Do I expect something like that's gonna happen? Of course not. Until it does, you know what I mean? That's exactly what this was tonight. So, hey man, that's my further reaction after giving it some thought. I definitely want to have a video where I sit down and welcome Luka and really go over what I think he can bring to our franchise, what this means for LeBron James, what this means for Anthony Davis a little further. Kind of went into a little bit of that tonight, though. I just think the Dallas fit looks pretty good, but now they have 2 number 2s instead of any number 1s. And they're going to feel that. They're going to be games where they really feel that. You know, I know better. I've had Anthony Davis on my team now for 6 years, 7 years? I know exactly the good and the bad that comes with Anthony Davis. You're going to need that LeBron James. You don't have it because you gave him to us, and his name is Luka the Don. Now, the question is, how are they going to coexist? I know they love their styles. They fit. They both pass. They both, Luka's so amazing with passing, and Braun is too. So you talk about Dorian Finney-Smith reuniting with Luka Doncic. Now he got LeBron and Luka getting him the ball. It's going to be terrific. Vando, his spacing doesn't matter as much because Luka Don's on the floor spacing the ball. They both ball handle. They're going to be making some of the most amazing plays we've ever seen in our lives off of one another, Braun and Luka. The pace, the driving at the rim. I don't doubt that we're going to win a lot of regular season games this year from here on out. We're going to make the playoffs with these two, even if the fit is trash. They're going to make it work. Believe me, they're going to make it work. We will have some defensive issues, to say the least. But like I said, you do have Vando. You do still have Gabe Vincent. You still have Dodo. But you will miss Max Christie defensively. But, again, for every great thing that Max Christie did, now you bring me Luka Doncic. For now and the future. Now, as I mentioned before, I think there's a world where we may not even play Luka very much this season. With the type of injury that he's had this year that's kept him out for the last almost month, and he's set to miss more time. He's not going to be back against the Clippers or nothing like that. He's expected to miss much more time than Anthony was. Maybe sometime after the All-Star break, they may think it makes sense to shut him down, depending on how he's recovering from this injury and what he's going to mean for our franchise going forward. I think the Lakers' next big intention is to sign him to an extension, and they're probably going to break a record to do that. I'd imagine the Lakers are going to break a record in paying that man. I do believe that. So if there any risk to him, his future in regards to his conditioning and stuff like that, I think that's a risk the Lakers have committed to tonight.
But the thing about Luka Doncic is even if you sign him to a bad contract, he's such an amazing player and such a massive name to where if you do want to trade him, I'm pretty sure you can get something for him. This ain't no Bradley Beal. You know what I mean? This ain't, no disrespect. This ain't no Zach LaVine. You know, you sign Luka Doncic to a $70 million a year contract, there's still going to be 29 other teams that are going to want to make that deal if for some reason you decide to get cold feet and want to move him. So I ain't worried too much about him signing a bad contract. When you're that type of player, there's no such thing. It's the God's honest truth, man. There's no such thing as a bad Wemby contract. There's no such thing as a bad Luka contract. There's no such thing as a bad Jokic contract, in my opinion. Whatever they want, including no trade clauses, they probably have the leverage to demand. Break a record. You know, they gave, what was it, Jaylen Brown got what? Was it $300 million or something like that? I don't remember. It was a record-breaking thing. I'd imagine Luka's going to want a little more than that. I'd imagine he'd be able to get it to $70 million a year, something like that. Whatever it is, it's under what he's worth. Like, he's that level of talent. So I'd imagine the Lakers are gonna give him whatever he wants, man. And that's something that, as far as I could tell, I would agree to. All things equal, I'd definitely give him his money. There shouldn't be no reason I wouldn't. Now, if we find out there's something really wrong with Luka Doncic, that could change things. But like, his talent level makes it so that you take the chance. The worst case scenario is that he has to retire or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He has to retire. His career cuts early, and that's not something I think is a real thing at all. I ain't heard nothing that makes that make you wonder about that or nothing. Like, he's 25 years old, so even if he has to retire early's like 31, 32, you still got 7 years with the dude. Like, that's why Dallas doing this is so weird, man. That is exactly why. Because he's so young and he's already accomplished so much that you just look at Dallas and say, you took him for granted, bro. That's what it really comes down to. Dallas Mavericks took that man for granted. Maybe not the fans, but like the front office and the organization. They took him for granted. This isn't what you do. And maybe some would say the same about Anthony Davis with the Lakers. You took him for granted. I respect that. But like, I traded him for Luka Doncic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Anthony Davis, when he looks back on this, will say, well, they may have moved on from me, and I may not have been at peace with that. But the perceived value of Luka Doncic at that moment made it so that it wasn't a disrespectful trade for Anthony Davis. The idea of trading Anthony Davis may be disrespectful when you have your ego and your belief in yourself. You could be offended by every trade, especially when you're that high level of a talent. But I think when you understand the perception of value, you understand that this was a very, very good trade that Anthony Davis got, was sent out in regards to. The Lakers didn't take him for granted. They traded him for something that's worth more today. So that's what it is. That's exactly what I see there, man. So yeah, that's pretty much as much as I'm gonna say, man. I still got a million things I want to discuss. Obviously, we'll leave something in the morning. Breakfast time, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a lot to say. There goes the idea that a big name wasn't gonna get traded. Those who said big movement was coming, oh yeah, it was coming. I was wrong. The biggest trade of all time took place tonight, basically. So, kudos to those who said movement was coming. I just didn't expect it to be my team doing something like this. But that they did, I'm very happy. I feel more secure. My future feels more secure. So long as, Luka Doncic doesn't have any issues with his, perceived continuance of his career. As long as nothing like that's in place, I feel more secure about our future right now than I did before we did it. And I'll tell you like this. I'll leave it with this. I don't think Anthony Davis and LeBron James is about to win no championship this year. I really didn't. I thought even if we made trades and traded away our 2 picks to try to get some role players or something like that, I did not think we would win no championship, bro. So for those who are saying, well, now the Lakers definitely threw their championship hopes away, I never thought we had any. I thought the ship sailed 2 years ago. I really did. I was poised to be wrong, but I think the the willingness to move Anthony Davis came from the notion that he has trouble beating certain people and playing well against certain people. Now, maybe that's just my own perception. Maybe Rob Pelinka don't see this that way. Maybe Jeannie doesn't see it that way. But the way we kept getting beat by the Denver Nuggets over and over again, the way he kept getting beat by Sabonis over and over again, certain games we come in only have 15 points, attempt 8 shots, stuff like that. I think it would have been a lot harder to make this trade tonight if those flaws were not in place. You show us that you missing free throws down the stretch against Orlando, and we lose that game off your free throws. It's just a certain passiveness that came with Anthony Davis. As I said, like a number 2 type of spirit with a number 1 level of talent and body. It's just that beta type of thing that I just thought had run its course. I really did, man. And I think others may have felt that way too here in our organization. You're supposed to be leading the team, but LeBron James at 40 still got to be the number 1 on certain nights in order for us to overcome certain teams. We beat a Knicks team tonight soundly without you, Anthony Davis. Like, that stuff doesn't help, bro. When you look at the idea of trying to go forward with him past LeBron James, I don't think they really thought that they could win without LeBron James with Anthony Davis as our number 1. I don't think anybody in the front office probably was certain of that. And so that's a big problem, man. When you consider, hey, Braun's about to be out, AD's gonna be the successor, and you start looking at some of this stuff, and you couple that with the potential injury stuff that lingers no matter how well he continues to play through it, you still see situations like this. He get knocked out of a Golden State game and stuff like that. It's just so many different things like that. You just like, all right, bro. The moment something great comes my way, I'm cashing out on this dude. And I don't blame Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss for doing that. I've seen the same thing they've seen. It would have to be a return like this coming my way to make me do it. But when something like this comes your way, you do it. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching.